Welcome students. Let's talk about another important chapter of civics, working of institutions. In this chapter, we have to deal with the working of the various institutions and organs of the government, how they coordinate and cooperate with each other in running the administration of the country. That is the basic theme of this chapter. See, we all know that there are three organs of government in any country of the world. They are executive, legislature, and judiciary. Executive execute the law, legislature formulates the law, and judiciary, we all know, protect the law. It not only safeguard the law of a country, but it also protect the rights and freedom of the individual citizen from being encroached by other. In our country, executive consists of the president, vice president, cabinet ministers. Legislature, parliament, which consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and president, not the prime minister. Here it's mentioned prime minister, it's not the prime minister, it's the president. Then judiciary consists of the Supreme Court of India. So there are three organs of government that deals with the administration of the country. Let's talk about the Parliament of India first. Article 79 of the Indian Constitution states that there shall be a parliament for the Union which consists of the President, two houses to be known as the Council of States and the House of the People. The Parliament has three components: Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the President. Parliament is the final authority for making law. These are the functions. Parliament is the final authority for making laws in any country. Parliament exercises control over those who run the government. We all know, if you talk about India, the formation of government take place in Lok Sabha. A party who get the majority of seat in Lok Sabha tends to form the government. Parliament control all the money that the government have. Parliament, without the sanction of Parliament, government cannot spend money. Then Parliament is the highest forum of debate and discussion on public issues and problems in any country. We all know that our representatives discusses, analyzes the problems and the various issues, existing issues of the country in the Parliament. Then the two houses of the Parliament, these are the differences between the two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Both are the houses of Parliament. Both played a very important role in making law for the country. Still, we find the technical differences between both these two houses. First, Lok Sabha is the lower house of the Parliament, Rajya Sabha is the upper house. Lok Sabha is also known as the House of the People. Rajya Sabha is called as the Council of States. Maximum strength of Lok Sabha is 552, but current strength is 545. And Rajya Sabha's maximum strength is 250, but current strength is 245. Then there are two nominated members of Lok Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, it's 12. The presiding officer of Lok Sabha is Speaker. He presides over the meeting of Lok Sabha. Then if you talk about the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha, he is called as Chairman, and who act as a Chairman of Rajya Sabha? Vice President. Then the members of Lok Sabha are directly elected by the people. Rajya Sabha's members are indirectly elected by the people. They are elected by the elected members of the state legislative assembly. Money bill introduced in the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha has no power over money bill. Okay. Rajya Sabha can only delay the passing of money bill for 14 days and nothing else. It has no power to reject the money bill as passed by the Lok Sabha. The term of Lok Sabha is 5 years. The term of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Lok Sabha subject to dissolution. Under certain circumstances, Lok Sabha can be dissolved by the President. But Rajya Sabha can never be dissolved. It's a permanent house. 1/3 of its members retire every second year. So these are the technical differences between the Lok Sabha and that of the Rajya Sabha. Then the most important function of the Parliament is the making of law. And before making law, we know that a bill is made and that bill is passed from both the houses of the Parliament, and when it get the assent of the president, the bill becomes a law. Basically, there are two types of bill: ordinary bill, that is related to non-monetary matter, and money bill. Let's talk about ordinary bill first of all. Ordinary bill can be introduced in any house of the parliament. Suppose it is introduced in the Lok Sabha after being passed by majority from the Lok Sabha. Now majority, there are three types of majority: special majority, simple majority, and special majority with ratification. We will talk about these three types of majority later on. First of all, see, after being passed by majority, two-third majority, if talk about the two-third majority, after being passed by two-third majority from Lok Sabha, it is transmitted to the Rajya Sabha. After being passed from Rajya Sabha by majority, it is sent to the president. After receiving the assent of the president, the bill becomes a law. But remember one thing, that in case of disagreement over the ordinary bill, okay, in case of the disagreement over the ordinary bill, joint session is held in which member of both the houses sit together. There is a provision of joint session in case of the disagreement between the houses over the ordinary bill. If you see Article 108 of the Indian Constitution, that deals with joint sitting of both houses in certain cases. Article 108. Then if you talk about money bill introduced only in the Lok Sabha. It cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. And after being passed from the Lok Sabha, it is sent to the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha cannot reject it. It can only delay it by 14 days. There is no provision of joint session over the money bill. Remember, there is a provision of joint session over ordinary bill, but no joint session is held over the money bill. If the president disagrees over the ordinary bill, he can send it back for reconsideration only at once. But if president cannot send back the money bill for reconsideration, president has to sign the money bill at once. In India, the president enjoys no, you should know that in India, the president enjoys no veto power. Veto power means power to reject the bill, power of saying no. President cannot say no to any bill. President has no power to reject any bill. So president in our country does not enjoy veto power over any bill passed by the parliament. President has to give assent to the bill. Article 111 of the Indian Constitution states that after receiving the assent of the president, the bill becomes a law. Then talk about political executive and permanent executive. There are two types of executive, political and permanent executive. These are the differences. Political executives are elected by the people for a specific period. Permanent executives are salaried with civil servants who are appointed by the political executive on a long term. Political leaders like the Prime Minister, Council of Ministers are political executive, and IAS officer, IPS officer, IFS, Indian Forest Service, they all are permanent executive. Now third, political executive remain in office only so long as they command the confidence of the majority members of the parliament. Usually they are in office for 5 years. But if you talk about permanent executive, they remain in office till the age of their retirement. Political executives, since they are elected by the people, they are answerable to people for all the consequences of their decision. But permanent executive, they only advise, they only assist the political executives. They are not so powerful. They do not take any decisions. Instead, they assist political executives in carrying out day-to-day administration. Though the permanent executive may be more qualified, more efficient, more eligible than that of the political executive, permanent executive enjoy less power because they are not elected by the people. Okay, and in a democracy, that person holds the highest position who get the verdict of the people, who are elected by the people. So this is about the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. They are very important political executive of our country. Article 74, there shall be a Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President. Article 75, the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President, and other ministers are also appointed by the President and advice of the Prime Minister. So Article 74 and Article 75 deals with the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers are having three categories: Cabinet Ministers, Minister of State, and Deputy Ministers. Okay, Now let's talk about the Council of Ministers. The President has to appoint such person as ministers who have been so recommended by the Prime Minister, and there are three categories of ministers: Cabinet Minister, Minister of State and Deputy Minister. Cabinet is a small body of ministry who occupy a prominent position in the party. They are 18 to 20 in number, and they participate in almost all the meeting held by the Prime Minister. They always remain with the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister deal with the administration by taking, after consulting with the Council of Ministers, not with the Council of Ministers but with the Cabinet Ministers of the Council of Ministers. That is why the Government of India is often called as the cabinet form of government. And Ministers of State and Deputy Ministers are having less power than that of the Cabinet Ministers. Okay, so these Council of Ministers' main function is to aid and advise the Prime Minister in running the administration of the country. It's mentioned in Article 75 of the Indian Constitution. Then what are the powers and functions of the Prime Minister? See, there are various powers and functions. Prime Minister is the head of the government. Prime Minister presides over the meeting of the cabinet, coordinate the work of various departments. Prime Minister take final decision in case of disagreement arises between departments. Prime Minister exercises general supervision of different ministries. Prime Minister supervises the work and functioning of all the ministers. Prime Minister distribute and redistribute work to the ministers. Distribution and redistribution of portfolio, which minister will get which department, that is decided by the Prime Minister. Then Prime Minister also has the power to dismiss the ministers, and all the ministers are attached with the Prime Minister. When Prime Minister quits, the entire ministry has to quit. This shows the importance of the Prime Minister. Then let's talk about the powers and functions of the President of India. Article 52 says that there shall be a President of India. President, we all know, is the nominal head of the country. He does not enjoy real power. Okay, whatever power President has, he can exercise it only after consulting with the Prime Minister and that of the Council of Ministers. See the powers and functions of the President of India. All government activities take place in the name of the President. All laws and major policies are issued in the name of President. All major appointments are made by the Prime Minister, not by the Prime Minister but by the President, such as those of the Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, governors of the state, chief election commissioners. These are the highest officers of the state who are appointed by the President. Then all international treaties and agreements are made in the name of the President. President is also the supreme commander of the defense forces. Then President signs the bill and make it a law. Then declaration. President has the power to declare war and peace with other countries. And last but not the least, that is the discretionary power. This is not clear. 8 point. See, discretionary power. This is the only real power of the President of India. What is discretionary power? See, when the election of Lok Sabha take place and none of the party get the majority of seat in the Lok Sabha, then the government will not be formed. Okay, because only after getting the majority of seat in the Lok Sabha, a party can form the government. If none of the party get the majority of seat, then how the government will be formed? Then in that case, the President invite the party getting the maximum number of seat to form the government. Okay, the President, in the case of hung parliament is that situation where none of the party gets the majority of seat. So in the situation of hung parliament, President will invite the party who got the maximum number of seats to form the government. So this power of the President to invite the party getting the maximum number of seats to form the government, this power of the President is called as the discretionary power of the President, and the President exercise this power without consulting with anybody. That's why I've said that discretionary power is the only real power enjoyed by the President of India. So President has the power to invite any party. President can invite any party, but generally President invite that party who has the chance of getting the majority. So generally President invite the party getting the maximum number of seats to form the government. Okay, and give that party a specific time to prove the majority in order to continue the government. Then let's talk about the Supreme Court, and we all know that the judiciary is the third important organ of the government, and the Supreme Court represents the judiciary of our country. It is the highest court of India, established in 1950, and Supreme Court are having a lot of functions. Supreme Court, if you read Article 124, Article 124 of the Indian Constitution deals with the establishment and constitution of Supreme Court. So there are two main functions, powers of Supreme Court: original jurisdiction and appellate jurisdiction. What is original jurisdiction? The Supreme Court can directly hear and admit some special type of cases. For example, any dispute between the government of India and one or more state government, or between two or more state government. So such type of cases are settled only by the Supreme Court, not by any other court. That is the original jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdiction: an appeal lies to the Supreme Court against the judgment of High Court. If you are not satisfied with the judgment of High Court, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, so Supreme Court certainly hear the cases against the judgment of the High Court. This is the appellate jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Now, independent judiciary. In our country, the judiciary is absolutely independent. Judiciary does not work under the control of any organ. No organ can interfere, no institution can interfere in the working and functioning of judiciary. Okay, so the courts are not under the control of government, don't act on their behalf. Judges in the High Court as well as the Supreme Court are appointed with very little interference or with no interference from any branches of the government. Okay, see in the right side, the judiciary is the third branch of the government, and the Indian judiciary are represented by the Supreme Court, High Court, highest court of the state, district courts, Nyay Panchayat of the rural areas. But judge is also not having absolute power. Okay, there is also a provision to remove the judges on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. Okay, and this can be done by the parliament after a bill being passed from both the houses of the parliament for the removal of the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, and in after getting the assent of the president, the judge will be removed. So there is a provision for the impeachment of the judges of Supreme Court. Okay, then one of the important functions of Supreme Court is judicial review. What is judicial review? See, judicial review is that power of court to pronounce upon the constitutionality of laws and executive order. Okay, the Supreme Court or High Court review the working and functioning of the legislature and judiciary. If the legislature and executive goes beyond its jurisdiction, or if the parliament makes some law which is violating the rights and freedom of the people, then that law can be invalidated by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has the power to declare that law as unconstitutional or invalid if that law is not proper, or if that law is violating the rights and freedom of the individual citizen. Similarly, if the executive does not work in a proper way, judiciary has the power to direct the executive to work in a proper way. So judiciary has the power to review, to monitor the functioning of both the legislature and that of the executive. This is the judicial review. Okay, so if any organ of the government goes beyond its jurisdiction or does not work properly, judiciary has the power to direct them. Judiciary cannot do the work of legislature and executive, but judiciary can certainly direct the prime minister or the president or the chief minister or the governor to work in a proper way. Can direct. This is the power of judicial review that is exercised by the Supreme Court as, at the center, and the High Court in the state. Then one important feature of Indian judiciary is recently a provision of public interest litigation was started. What is provision public interest litigation? See, the Indian Constitution allows a public spirited person, NGO, or anybody to file a case on behalf of a group of persons whose rights are affected. Okay, so anybody can file a case on behalf of the court. Okay, just through a letter. By writing a letter also, anybody can write a letter to the court against filing a case against the problem which is facing by the people as a whole. You cannot put forward your personal problem. Okay, you can put forward that problem which is facing by the whole people living in the society, such as the problem of environmental degradation or the violation of basic human rights of the poor, or conduct of government policy, related to the conduct of government policy, or violation of religious rights. So such type of problem you can forward to the Supreme Court or to the High Court through a letter which are facing by the people as a whole, and the court, if your problem is genuine, reasonable, the court will certainly, after going through the letter, will come forward to settle your case or to solve your problem. So without approaching the court, without going to the court, one can get their problem to be solved, get the problem of the society to be solved by the court. That is public interest litigation. Okay students, thank you.